Um, so you're heading up. Where do you say you're heading? You're heading to the president of Orions?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna meet with her next Friday because I want to have something I want to talk to her about. And I've already gotten my permissions to record stuff for YouTube because I was going to talk to her about that, but whatever, I had to do that ahead of time because now I'm going to Airborne from there. I'm going to Airborne on the 3rd.
Oh, really? To record right now?
Well, the Wilds had a little bit of a project for me to do, and so I booked some more time to record while I'm up there to start doing some of the things that you suggested. I'm excited about it.
Good piano there?
Yeah, and I love working with Mike. Awesome.
Okay, so just don't curse or anything because now we have people watching. There's 14 people watching, so.
That's fine.
So, so you're going to record how many pieces next week?
As many as I can in a day and a half. I have 12 I have to do for the Wilds, so that'll start. I'm going to try to get about 30. I don't know if I can.
You're going to record 30 pieces?
I don't know.
How many days?
A day and a half.
Oh my word!
I don't know if I can do that. There a lot of them are not hard, so it just depends on. I'll probably get more like 20. I hope. But I'm going to do as many as I can.
Okay, so guys, those of you that are joining, and I see now you are joining, just to let you know, we're on a 30-second delay. So don't be concerned about what you see here.
I won't watch it.
I'm going to keep the computer here just so I can get questions from people that are watching. And y'all can feel free. I see that y'all are typing in, but you're more typing in excited and so on, but you're not typing your questions. So I want y'all to ask questions because I can ask questions all I want. Feel free to ask questions. So start firing away. As you can see, I have her at the piano and she's ready to work for y'all. And let's see.
I saw that on Facebook.
So,
thanks a lot.
And there's some very, very bright people out there that do this. So be ready.
All right.
And so, but I'm waiting for y'all to start asking questions. But they're on a 30-second delay, so who knows?
Right.
So you're going to record, and then you're not going to put those on a project. Those are just going to be for YouTube.
That's right. Yes. And if they go on a project later, maybe. But for now, it's just to try to promote some of the books. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd love to. I'm really happy about recording some of them because I want to play them. And so I'll try to do kind of an overview of several different. I probably won't just do a straight book, but it'll be an overview.
Good. Those of y'all that are listening, I want to make sure it looks like everything is working audio-wise, but I just want to make sure. Well, I know that. Never mind. I can test. So I know audio is working. BL says, how did you know that music was what you wanted to do?
Well, it was a part of the family that I grew up in. My mother taught for many years. We were involved in church music, I can remember. And it became my own passion, I think, in high school. When I was 16, I knew that God wanted me to do this. I just knew that it was something that God had put in my life and that I had some ability, but also I wanted further training to do. So I would say that was a real turning point as far as this is what I'm going to do with my life.
Okay.
When I'm 16.
When she was 16, when you were arranging, do you think proficiency level, intermediate, or advanced? Let's see, there's a part 2. Oh, okay. BL says, was there a particular moment, we already said that, when you were 16? Okay, Jeanette says, when you're arranging, do you think proficiency level? Obviously you do. Talk about that process a little bit. I got dinged for that last couple of weeks. Don't you remember I was at that thing we were at?
Yes.
Because I wrote an intermediate piece and put 2 advanced
Yes,
measures.
I remember that now. Actually, I have to be very aware of that because almost every project I do has a label on it. Some of them are I think are inaccurate in some ways. The labeling is very difficult, and there are many opinions on that. But I think each publishing company kind of has their own criteria for that. When I first started writing, that wasn't on my radar. wrote what I played in church.
Sure.
And then as I've become more and more into projects, I have to think about it. One of the things that I believe has given me more opportunities than anything else with the publishers is the fact that I'm able to take big ideas and break them down for the intermediate pianist. Almost everybody I write for wants intermediate or late intermediate books.
I should mention that for those of y'all that are writing or plan or would like to write, you hear that over and over and over again. If you want to write and you want to get published, write intermediate or late, I guess late intermediate. Right. That's where it's at. So I want to make sure everybody has time to ask their questions, but maybe talk about just briefly the pitfalls when you're writing. Let's say you're writing for an intermediate level, but pitfalls where all of a sudden you have the bar in there that's advanced. Like how do you do that? Avoid that?
One of the things is keys. I don't use above probably 3 flats in an intermediate, late intermediate book.
Really? Okay.
No, maybe 4 flats, maybe. But and I would probably not use A major either. I would use a stick. D would be my highest sharp.
Accidental's an issue?
Depends on how many and how they're written. Okay. Sometimes I use the spelling of those just to make it easier to read,
sure.
Even though theory buffs might scream about that.
Yeah.
Hand size, all of those things are important. Hard to read chords and patterns that are just a little more difficult. I've had to go back into some triplets I was writing in a left-hand part this week and make them easier, just because I knew I was going to get in trouble for it with the publisher. Yeah, it was just a little too much. The
publishers yell.
So sometimes if I have a pattern going in the left hand, I might trade it back and forth in the hands, and then it might work fine.
It says, I have piano students that love the big stuff, and I know that's true. I mean, we all have, or I don't teach that way, but I know most teachers are going to have students that have to go to competition.
Right.
So there's got to be a place for advance, but it's a lot smaller market than the average.
Absolutely. In the last, Greg and I were talking a few minutes ago, and in the last, from 2014 January to this year, 2015 October, I will write 100 pieces for publishing for piano, and zero of those pieces are advanced. Nobody has asked me for advanced pieces this year and last year.
Isn't that something?
I wrote 2 single pieces in the last 5 years or so, and they were for collaborative collections. One of them is in a book published by Lorenz. It's called My Savior First of All. And I have an arrangement, Be Still My Soul, there that is advanced. I wrote an advanced arrangement for a book with Soundforth also. But that's it. Now, I love to play some of the big stuff, and I like to write it, but it's just not, it's not going to be asked for.
Isn't that something? Okay.
But my oldest books are 2 books that are out of print from the wilds. They're still available with print on demand. And you can find links to that from my website. But those pieces I still hear at contests because people are looking for big pieces for contests.
Let me guess. One of those is, what is that song I hear at contests? It's from you. Oh, my word. It's I am thine, O Lord. I am thine, O Lord. Yes. Yes. That's from the early advanced.
Yes. Draw Me. That was really the title song. Was Draw Me Nearer was the book.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's see. Favorite techniques to reach the climax of a hymn arrangement. Now, what's your favorite technique to reach the climax?
I would say there are so many, that it's hard to say a favorite. Sometimes it's a big crashing chord. I'm trying to think. I've got one advanced book here on the piano. It's a Christmas book. The hardest piece in this book, called How Great Our Joy, is O Holy Night. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I played this because it's such a beast. I probably can't think of where it is either, but it's some place where I went out for a big, it's a big oomph chord way out in the extremes of the piano. And so I've been working up to it. And then it's this big chord on this climax. I like to do that. Sometimes it's an arpeggio. Sometimes, yeah, I think it's usually a big gesture. And when I do that as a player, I feel something going on in the core of my body. There's energy, there's strength coming. It's not arms. It's not, it's inside of me. It's mental. Don't you sense that when you're playing something big like that? So those are the moments that you want to really communicate that important part of the text. I don't know if that answers her question fully.
Maybe she's getting at retards and stuff
yeah,
like that.
Sometimes, but a lot of times the actual climactic chord is not on a retard. It may be at the beginning of, or I wouldn't say it's, usually the retard is as you're coming off of that.
Okay.
Wouldn't you say?
It's a stylistic thing, probably, right?
I
Maybe
would
for
think
me
so.
not, but for you it would be.
Maybe
perhaps.
so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, she's getting obviously.
Yeah, go ahead and send more message about what you're thinking there. Sometimes it's octaves, something big going on in the octaves, or something with octaves going up. But I think a lot of times there are more notes.
Sure.
In a climax.
Right, or heavier texture or something.
Yes, or some big huge thing there.
Bear with me, guys. For some reason, I'm using a secondary DSL connection here, and I've lost it. Basically, I'm trying to get the session back. The question from B, and B says, well, hold on, here it is. Okay. B says, do you have at least 2 moments when you saw a great improvement in your composing, piano playing, and what do you believe attributed to that? Okay, so that's the question. Moments. You can probably do one.
I can point to a key in my choral composing. Well, there are a couple. One was going to graduate school and studying with Dr. Dwight Gustafson in composition. I had gone to Conservatory of Music in Kansas City and taken, I was there for 1 year earlier in my training, and I had taken a choral writing course with a man who didn't really help me grow as a composer. And here I was 19. I wanted to learn. And he gave me an A+ on a project, and I wanted to say, I'm paying you to teach me what to do. So I went from that class, and then the next year I enrolled at Bob Jones, and then in graduate school I studied with Dr. Gustafson, and he took my pieces and sat at the piano with me and showed me what to do. Another real turning point, I think, in my choral writing has been more recent. And it has been the years that I've attended the Composer Symposium at Pine Lake.
Yeah.
I went for the first time 3 summers ago. And really, the first year was a little hard on my pride because I got told some things that I didn't like to hear.
Yeah.
But it was really good for me. And I worked on those things. And then I did some private lessons with one of the clinicians. And that was a huge, huge turning point for me. I learned that my way wasn't always the best. You get in these ruts, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I bring that up. That sounds like a little thing, but the Composer Symposium, for anybody there, I know some of you are, you're interested in this, getting published. As a matter of fact, I missed a question from, let's see, somebody. I don't see it now, but somebody was asking the process for getting published. And the process for getting published in this market right now is go to the Composer Symposium. Pretty much, isn't that right?
It's huge. Well, yeah. Actually, Joseph Martin is planning to start some keyboard workshops around the country. And he was telling me some about his ideas on that. And I think it's a great idea. So if you're keyboard interested, I think there'll be more options. It will really be through Pine Lake because he does a lot of those conferences through them. But it is a huge time in networking. Quite honestly, there are 3 or 4 key times in the last 5 years where I went and met people on purpose and networking and letting them know who you are, what you do. They become acquainted with your stuff. It's huge in that. But I also kind of color that with something Dr. Frank Garlock said years ago, and I thought it was a great statement. He said, write for your church. If God sees fit to have you publish, great. But let your church music be your first priority, and write for this mission that He's given us, God's given us in our church. And some people won't ever be published, and I know that's hard, but because people want to be, but not everybody will, and it's a hard field right now. It's harder than ever because merging and cutting back. And so, but print music is not dead. It is still thriving, but you just really have to work hard with networking and refining your skills.
Yeah. So, and by the way, a couple of just that. When I'm out, and I know I haven't tried a lot to get published, so I'm probably I'm not the expert, but I've gone to a couple of events in the last year. One was more on the performance side, and I kept hearing there that the performers are getting opportunities because they start in local church. Same thing, writing music. Start in your local church and just write. I was writing this morning for church on Sunday. I go to a church of 150 people, but I've started pretty much writing. And you could look at it and say, well, is that really the best use of your time? I'm writing fiddle licks for my daughter who plays fiddle for us, or I'll be writing. But yet it's valuable. You learn a lot, plus, help your church to grow. Symposium, and we're sort of laughing about that, but that actually is the place right now. Joseph Martin, whom most of you know, goodness, maybe the most connected person or prolific writer.
Sacred.
He runs that. And people get opportunities there. I went there the first time. I'm not really so much interested in the choral thing, but I sat back and watched and really enjoyed watching the choral people pitching pieces. It was a lot of fun, and that is where you want to go. Piano, like she said, he's starting the keyboard.
That's right.
So that'll be just for pianists. So pay attention to that. Go to Pine Lake Music, find Pine Lake Music, and you can get information about those things. Okay, CJ Kaufman. I'm an intermediate player who tries to play advanced music, but have not been successful. I seem to be stuck at intermediate. Any suggestions on improving?
I would say study the classics, learn technique. I know that sounds like, boring if you're just wanting to play in church, but technique is huge in enabling you to learn more and also become a better reader. Just sight read every day. That can be in the hymn book. It can be in classical or sacred books. But I think not skipping the fundamentals is very important. And then mark the places that you stumble, why they cause you trouble. Write in fingering. All kinds of things like that are very helpful to become better players.
And I would suspect that the time to learn is now, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's not a matter of age.
Right.
I didn't start really learning the piano until I was in my 30s. I played growing up, but really started focusing it on my 30s. I know many, probably a majority of people that follow me are 50 plus. Just they have time, passionate about learning, and they're doing great. Some of them, I'm always amazed at some of the things I see at every level.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what else we got here. Natalie, that sort of covered your question. How do you get published? Go to Composer Symposium. Let's see. Do you do? Let's see. Do you do workshops?
I do a few. I do 2 or 3 things a year usually, but I play for my church, and I'm married, and I'm not going to go off and leave my husband every weekend, So I'm also a full-time university teacher. So I take a few events. Yes.
Okay, so contact her. Her website is faylopezmusic.com, correct? Victor McDonald, your question won't go through. That came through, so try that again. Who is Sacred Grace Notes? They put in a nice plug for me. Greg has good classes.
That's great.
Yes.
By the way, I met Greg at Pine Lake Music twice.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'd heard of him, but I had not met him. And we met at a piano event.
Yes.
And then we met again this summer at the Composer Symposium.
Yeah, probably three years ago or something. Yeah, we were over there for an event with Heather Swanson.
Right.
Let's see. I'm trying. For some reason, the comments come all jumbled. So, well, let's see. More comments below. Um, sorry, guys. Is there a particular pianist that has influenced your style, or was there?
There were a number of people. I think, well, of course, my mom, very much. When I was a teenager, I got to hear Van Cliburn. I had the cheapest seats in the house. I sat in the very top of the last balcony. What a privilege to hear him play. And then, you know, Dino was really popular when I was in high school. And I also had quite a bit of exposure to Lillinus and Otis Skilling's music because I lived in Kansas City and worked with some of the people that were connected with Lillinus. So I went to a Lillinus board thing about writing with Otis Skilling's when I was in high school, learned a lot through that. So those people, I heard Don Wurtzen when I was in high school. So all those sounds were interesting to me. But then getting to hear Van Cliburn was just an honor too. So all of that.
So I'm guessing you can play the first measure of my tribute from Dino for me, right?
Well, actually, I can't play his arrangement, but I know the song, and I actually met Andre Crouch one time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Now, you don't remember the Dino thing?
I don't remember the Dino. Oh, that one? Oh, okay, yeah.
My brother played that
great.
growing up, and he played that.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yes.
I think I did hear it, but I think I ripped my hands trying to do the gliss.
Yeah, that's like the most
It's been a while.
Probably the most famous hymn arrangement of all time. Let's see. Okay, Lauren Rogers is a fan.
Oh, she goes to my church.
Amazing pianist for our church. Does it for you?
It does. However, I have had to learn to teach by theory because about 2/3 of my students can't do it by ear. And would you agree with that statistic?
Yeah, I think, but maybe more than 2/3. But would you agree that it can be learned?
Absolutely, yes. But I have to be able to explain it in language theory and not just say, do this, because they won't know what to do if I say do this. But God gave me a very good ear, and I've always been able to hear things and play them pretty much, pretty close.
Right. Is it important, do you think?
Ear playing?
Yeah.
I think it's a huge asset. But if you can't read notes and you can only play by ear, it's not a complete gift.
So ultimately you have both. And would you agree with me, really? I mean, there's the middle, what theory is the bridge between the two.
I agree.
So you have to, if you think about things from a theory perspective, absolutely.
Yeah.
And people should learn it,
Right.
How to do it. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So I do know who Sacred Notes is. It's Joe. Let's see. I'm going to have to talk to you two about the way they do this. I may have hit the questions. Let's see. Anybody else have questions? Get them in. We have just a few minutes. Anything you want to?
Well, I would like to show a couple of, or 2 or 3 of my newest books.
There we go.
These have markers in them because we were doing another presentation. Silent Night is my newest collection. It's with Soundforth, and it's moderately advanced. I would say it's kind of like one step up from intermediate. It's not super hard, but that just came out this year. Last fall, a Thanksgiving and Praise collection came out with Soundforth, and you can order these through Lorenz. And this one has been very well received. I think my personal favorite is the Doxology in here. Then Alfred has given me the opportunity to write Christmas carols with classics. Here are a couple of those. There are 3 Christmas books out, and this summer I'm writing 2 general hymn books that are combined with classics. I've tried to not have to stay true to the classical style of a particular piece all the way through. I wanted to make it where I'm using devices from a piece but not be locked into, let's say, classical period for every single piece in a book. So I've got some adagio things that I've stolen from adagio sections of Mozart or whatever, and they really kind of sound romantic, you know, period wise, as far as, but to give contrast to the collections. So they're not all the same, and I haven't used large portions of classical work, so they're just kind of sprinkled in and out.
Got it. Okay, so and you have, like we said, you have what, 8 or 10 collections coming out. You must have 12 collections coming out in 2 years.
Well, part of them are contributions. So I have, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 solo collections in 2 years.
Okay.
And then some contributions.
BLs. What do you think are the best books on theory and functional harmony, or fundamental harmony? She said.
Actually, I recommend some websites. I think gmajormusictheory.org is great.
gmajormusictheory.org.
Okay. Musictheory.net. Those are things I recommend to my students all the time. They're free. They have drills and explanations. And I know Greg has a lot of things too.
I do have a lot of stuff.
You do have a lot of stuff. So, yeah, just take advantage of the things like that.
Do you still have your arrangements edited, or is your music accepted as is, no questions asked?
It depends. Some editors are really picky, but I learn from them and I try to remember, because often I work with the same editors again. My choral arrangements I get asked for more changes on my choral than on my piano.
Right.
With the Alfred things, generally most things are okay, but they add a lot of fingering and different things like that. Although maybe make little suggestions here and there. A lot of my things are taken pretty much as is.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, pretty much. But choral, there's always something that they want us to do differently.
Sally says, Faye, we love your arrangements. Any plans to publish more intermediate difficulty pieces? And we talked about that earlier, I think, or maybe it was the interview.
It was.
Yeah, the pre-interview, which we're going to post on YouTube. But we did 2 interviews before we started this live session. And one of the things she said in there was, out of all you're publishing 100 piano pieces, and how many of them are advanced?
0.
0. So they're all intermediate.
Right.
And when I don't know, Sally, if you mean by intermediate, if you're talking about what level, if you're thinking advanced or intermediate, as in just above beginner. I'm the wrong person to ask.
Yeah, well, let me make a plug for at school. I teach at Bob Jones University, and my office mate is Gina Sprunger, and she's a fine writer, and she has a real gift for writing for the younger intermediate. So you might want to check out some of her things like that. Simple things, Christmas with Friends, are just fun pieces for a little bit lower level. But I think if my books say intermediate, I'm trying to target hand size, particular sets of movements and so forth as far as the hand movements. But yeah, we're doing lots of intermediate writing all the time.
Sure. What do you suggest in overcoming performance anxiety during offertories or communion?
That is a hard one. I have struggled with on and off most of my adult life, particularly. I think the more that you learn can go wrong, the worse it gets almost in some ways. I try to think about my playing as being an offering that I'm giving to God. And I know as a human that my offering will be imperfect, but it is, if I practice and if I prepare my heart, it's going to be the best offering I can give on that day. And so if I keep that focus, it takes the focus off me in my mind. Another scripture that helps me is that perfect love casts out fear. So if my love for people and my love for God are the way they should be, then it's going to help me not fear as much, because I'm thinking about those aspects of my playing. But I still struggle with it sometimes. And so if I have a big event somewhere, I'm probably going to try to play some of that music in my church before I go.
Sure.
Or play it at a prelude, or just record myself, or play someplace that's a little more scary than usual.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't ever go out in a concert without playing the music in your church, I would think.
Right. And also, you can play, if you're going to play an offertory you're scared of, why not play it in a prelude about a month ahead
Sure,
and
yeah.
get the jitters out?
Yeah. That's a good point. Try to get the, what do we call it, dry run stuff in.
Yeah.
Miss Lopez, I remember you all the way back in the early 80s at the Wilds.
Yes.
That couldn't have been you.
It was, yeah.
You were playing in the early 80s at the Wilds.
I was.
Isn't that something? But we'll never forget the impact. Which came first, playing by ear or playing by where is it?
Note.
Yes, playing by ear and reading notes.
Okay, I'll tell you a story about my mother because this applies to this. When I was very little, I was assigned some pieces. I was probably about 5 when this happened, and she wanted me to read the notes, but I would mess around and just mess with all kinds of ideas. And it was pretty popular in those days to kind of squelch ear playing and read the notes. But she recognized something that she didn't want to squelch. However, she was a stickler for reading. And so she thought that because I made so many mistakes in my experimentation, she thought that I would probably not ever amount to very much in music. But she was very grateful that she allowed me to experiment.
Okay.
So. They came together. I think I probably didn't experiment with ear playing until I started piano lessons with notes, but it happened kind of all at the same time.
Victor says, no videos of you on YouTube playing. Yes, she's going to be recording. He's asking when you're going to have videos out. You're going next week to record videos.
I'm hoping, yeah. Greg has lit a fire on me, and I asked him for some advice at a conference a couple weeks ago, and he gave me some really good ideas. So after that, yes, I'm going to try to get some of those things up.
If you can arrange your own music by ear, what are some benefits to learning other writers' arrangements?
I think you always learn something from other people's styles and writing techniques. I sometimes when I teach sessions, I refer to other writers because I've learned something from a particular arrangement that I want to use as an illustration. You might want to go through. Now, granted, you do this too, Greg, but I mostly play my own arrangements because I'm just comfortable with them.
Yeah.
But I teach a variety of people's arrangements in lessons and always learn from their process when I'm teaching, when I'm getting into their pieces. I think we need to expose ourselves to more than our own stuff, whatever that looks like. If it's just reading, I read through tons of other people's books too. I'll buy a new book, read through the whole thing, put it in my file for teaching, but I usually read through the whole book.
Do you still get lessons, take lessons?
I haven't for a while now.
Just every occasion?
I took composition lessons with Dan Forrest the semester before he left teaching, just because I thought, well, this is a good opportunity. Even though I'm old enough to be his mother, I think I'm going to do this. And it was kind of the start, before I went to Pine Lake, it was kind of the start to give me a push. And I told him, I'm in ruts. I need somebody to change. And he did. He challenged me on some things. But then the Pine Lake was really what gave me the big shock.
Good. Do you use finale, Jeanette wants to know?
All the time, almost every day. So much, Greg, that I told my husband last night that I've been writing so much that when I sit down to play the piano lately, I've been trying to hit Control Save when I leave the piano. That's scary.
You have something?
What?
That's a good joke, by the way. I like the joke.
No, it wasn't. I really did it.
Oh, really?
I mean, I've done it about 5 times in the last week. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is not good.
You need to get your husband to buy this for you. You need that little box right there.
Yeah.
So I can record MIDI from the piano.
That's cool.
So
Yes, I do need to know about that.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So that will get you away from having to go from the piano to the. Let's see. Have you ever been in the choir? Do you know how to do choral arrangements? Do you do orchestration arrangements, and do you play other instruments?
I play organ a little bit. I'm a one-footed organist. I play in my church sometimes because if everybody's gone and I need to jump on the organ for a little bit. I don't play any other instruments. I don't really love orchestration, and I think it's a good thing that I've discovered that, because I can write for a section or an obligato or whatever, and I use an orchestration book to just check things, make sure I'm not getting out of range or whatever. I've done brass choir type things and so forth, but I'm not good with string markings. With certain woodwind markings, I always ask players to help me with that. I've never played in an orchestra or a band, so I feel like other people do better at that than I do, and
Sure.
I need to leave that to them.
Got it. But you are doing quite well with choral arranging, right? I mean,
I've accompanied for choir almost 9.
No, I meant you're getting
oh.
published now with
Yeah.
choral.
Yeah.
More so than normal. Is that a bigger focus? for
More
you?
with the big companies.
Yeah.
More with the big companies.
Because you got a deal a couple weeks ago, right? At that thing we were at, the composers.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So you're starting to write more, mostly the music, not the lyrics, right? You find a lyricist and write.
Right. Yeah. One of my collaborators and I have done some joint lyric work, and in fact, a couple weeks ago, we spent a whole day working on some stuff, but she was the one that refined it. I was throwing out, he made it all fit.
Okay.
Because I'm not really a lyricist.
Sure. Yeah. Here's some hard ones for you. You
okay,
ready
go.
for some hard ones?
Yeah.
No, I'm scared to ask this because what pianist today in the gospel realm would you consider top 3? You don't want to answer that. You'll make people mad at you.
I probably won't answer it. I probably won't.
She knows too many pianists to start calling out a top 3. She'll make people upset. So we're gonna.
I'll tell you a couple of my friends that I really appreciate their work, and one of them's Ken Renfro. Just very. He's a fine writer for Alfred. He is very smooth in his style, and I always enjoy listening to him. He plays for chapel a lot at school, and I enjoy him. As far as an editor that I've worked with that I've learned a lot from is Larry Shackley. And he's the keyboard editor with Lorenz. And he's a fine pianist as well as a good editor.
I had never heard him play.
Very fine.
He didn't play. And by the way, Joe Martin can play lights out.
Oh, yeah. Yes, he can.
Joe Martin, if y'all haven't heard Joe Martin play, he plays lights out.
Right.
And let's see, I think
they're
really,
there are a lot of really fine. Heather plays beautifully.
It's just
Mary McDonald. I mean, there's just tons.
It's a big can of worms.
Yeah. I don't have like just 1 or 2 people. I mean, Dan Forrest is a wonderful pianist, so he writes beautiful music. His style is more classical.
Well, here's the next hard question. Somebody said, "Will you play something for us?"
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't I play one of the new things? I'll play it with Book. How's that?
Okay, there you
go. Okay. I'll play a Christmas piece since it's so hot outside. And this is labeled as moderate. I don't really consider it to be intermediate.
We got people from Brazil. I assume people that are from Brazil that are on, it's winter there. But here it's hot.
Oh, it's hot.
Beautiful. It's really beautiful. You need to go. And we're running a little late. And I think, guys, I apologize if I didn't get questions. For some reason, I'm using YouTube for this for the first time, and they do not give the comments really in a good way. I missed because they don't put them in order. I think I got most of them. I apologize if I didn't. But thanks for joining us. Hopefully we'll do well. Here's one more. Any motifs lately that the Lord has given you that have your attention? And I assume he means by motifs.
Musical motifs?
I believe so, yeah. You got something really like a really cool chord or a cool textural thing you want to?
Well, I just finished a book for Lilianus, and it has a piece in it with "O Sacred Head," and so I've done some sort of atmospheric things with. I come back to that at the end with just kind of the gravity of Christ's death, and yet it's got some mystery to it. It was really an enjoyable one. I wouldn't say that's like a thing I have right now, but it was different from some of the writing I do.
Sure. Very nice. So. Okay, well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We're on the clock. Just to let y'all know, we're on the clock, and you're downtown. You're here for a Baptist convention, right? You're going to be teaching at the church music for the next few days, and so we're always rushed, and maybe some other time we'll do it, maybe for 6 or 8 hours.
That'd be fun.
But thanks so much for coming.
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for guys that are watching live, and I know that a lot of people will watch it later. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. All right.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Let me figure out how to. Oh, you just found out about my Candy Crush addiction.
Oh.